Hey, Chris Ross here with A Digit Media, and today what I want to share with you is a framework that anybody can use in order to create email nurture content that will convert leads into consultations and subsequently into clients. I've had the opportunity to review lots of advisors' email content, and there's one particular thing that sticks out to me the most that allows someone to go from a cold prospect on your email list to a hot lead on your calendar. Let's get into it. When it comes to email nurturing sequences, first thing that we really want to define is what is a lead. So generally a lead is going to be someone who has filled out some kind of form, whether that's a contact form on your website, maybe they signed up for your newsletter, maybe they signed up for your webinar, your seminar. They have to have initiated some kind of contact with you and you have been able to obtain their contact information, meaning maybe first name, last name, email, phone number, or any other ancillary information that you may have wanted to get from them. So once that person has at least raised their hand and provided you with that information, that person is going to become a lead in your system. Now, once that person has become a lead, then you want to start to nurture that relationship. So it's no different than you meeting someone at a networking event, or you met someone at a bar or football game or whatever. If you guys hit it off and had a little bit of conversation and you wanted to continue that conversation, then this is where the relationship nurturing is going to come into play. And how you do that in this digital world for most people is going to be emails. A lot of times people think email is dead. That's actually not the case. While there's a lot of people sliding into people's DMs and things of that nature and sending text messages, email is still one of the best ways to communicate with people. And you want to have some kind of sequence in order to start nurturing that relationship. So depending on how they came into your system, meaning that they sign up for a newsletter, webinar, seminar, VSL, etc., you may have a different nurture sequence for those different entry points. So if somebody signed up for a webinar, I'm going to have a nurture sequence that's going to speak more about the content that was in the webinar. If they signed up for my newsletter, then obviously I'm going to send them information about the newsletter. So you really want to be able to understand at what point did they enter your ecosystem, and then from there we'll determine what kind of nurture sequence that you may want to put together. So that could be a short-term sequence that may be just a series of 4 or 5 emails, or it could be a long-term nurture sequence that may span over a number of months, for example. The first thing that we need to understand about email nurtures, or just really any kind of nurture sequence in general, is what works for the ideal client profile in today's market. A lot of financial advisors will typically just kind of rely upon the old school methods of nurturing, meaning a lead comes in, you're going to just simply put them on your newsletter to be sent out to them once a month. And while that is better than nothing at all, unless your newsletter is really well written, you're likely not going to get a lot of benefit out of it. And one of the reasons why I think that is the case is because we live in this age of personalization right now. It's not uncommon for us to have all this data on different prospects, and even us as consumers, we have come to be conditioned that in some instances we want certain companies to be able to personalize the content to what it is that I actually want. Meaning, if I were to opt in for a newsletter for a financial advisor, one of the things that I would encourage you to do would be to segment your leads as they opt in. Are these leads someone who, for example, is going to retire in the next 12 months or less? Or maybe they are 3 to 5 years away from retirement, or perhaps they're more than 5 years away from retirement. If you think about those 3 buckets of people, those 3 different individuals are going to have 3 different types of messages. Having some personalization in the messaging that actually goes out to people will be one of the very first things that I would recommend that you do, that will get more people to not only open your emails, but also click through to take whatever the next step may be as it relates to your call to action. Now that you have somebody on your list, you have them into some kind of nurture sequence, you really want to think about the content and how you're going to structure that so that you can basically walk this person from step A all the way through step Z. Meaning you want to be able to send out content that's not only going to be relevant, but you want to have that align with how people make decisions on how they are going to buy. So if you think about the buying process for anyone, for example, generally people are going to go through 3 different kinds of phases. One is going to be the idea that, hey, I have a problem, I need some help with this thing. The other part is going to be research. So most people are going to research what the problem is and see what solutions are going to be out there. So is there only one solution to this problem? Are there 5 different ways that I can solve this particular problem? And then from there, once they know what the options are for solving that, they need a way to help them decide which solution is going to be best for them. So I kind of think about this in the realm of, one, you want to be able to illuminate a problem. So people come onto your list. If you're segmenting them and you know the problem it is that they're wanting to get solved, and make that problem as big as you possibly can, because you want to let them know that, hey, this problem can't go unsolved. You don't want them to sit on their hands. Then you want to start to explore all of the different options. So think email 1 is going to be about illuminating the problem. Email 2 and 3 or 4 could be about the 3 or 4 different options that they have to solve this particular problem. Email 5 in this sequence could really be on, hey, here's how you compare and contrast these different options, and here's how I can help you make the best decision as it relates to that. If you can structure your content in that particular manner, then you're likely going to walk this person from problem to here are the multitude of solutions to here's how I can help you decide on which solution is going to be best for you. Now that we've talked about email nurtures, let's also think about other ways that you can continue to nurture leads that may be on your list. So not everything has to be relegated to email. There's definitely a time and a place to use perhaps text messaging, or maybe to be able to use video content through retargeting. Now, SMS can be a tricky thing for financial advisors. For some advisors, they need to have proper systems in place in order to be able to archive this text messaging communication, because you don't want to get in trouble with FINRA or anything like that. The other thing that you want to keep in mind when it comes to SMS is you don't want to overuse it. We know that people check text messages at a much higher rate than what they would do with emails, and you don't want to blow up somebody's text messaging with a bunch of messages, because they're only going to get annoyed and they're going to opt out. You want to be strategic in how you use text messaging. It's definitely not a channel that you just want to flood over and over again. Another way that you can go about nurturing people is going to be using video content. Just like the video that I am recording right now, I have my videos in an awareness campaign that actually runs on Facebook and Instagram. Once someone has come onto my list, I can actually retarget them with a multitude of videos. And what this is going to do is this is going to put me in front of them on a consistent basis, but it's not going to be a pushy way of actually doing it. And if you set up these campaigns correctly, you can do these in such a way when people start to engage, meaning view your content, you can continue to put more video content in front of them. But if they don't engage or view your video content, then maybe you take them out of that particular audience and perhaps show them some other content later. Now, obviously, as a financial advisor, trust is going to play a very big important part in being able to convert a client. And one of the best ways that you can build trust is obviously going to be video content. So this is going to be the #1 way that you can, one, demonstrate your expertise and build trust over time, especially if you are authentic in what it is that you are actually saying. One of the things that I like to see advisors do is leverage YouTube, for example. There's a specific advisor that I follow on YouTube that has done a fabulous job with his YouTube channel. And if you go look at any of his content, the comments are littered with people who say, I've been listening to this guy for quite some time. He's like the smartest guy in the room. I've been around for 20, 30 some odd years. I've heard all kinds of different advice. This guy seems to be genuine and is very approachable. It's definitely just a very good way to put out micro content and build up that trust and authority, because when people see you online, they really kind of see you as somewhat of a celebrity kind of person, because a lot of people don't have the courage to create content and put themselves out there. Having that YouTube content or just video content in general is definitely something that's going to kind of put you into a different light and kind of give you a little bit of that celebrity factor, and it goes a long way in building trust. So now that you've decided on the type of content it is that you're going to use, whether you're going to be using SMS, email, or video, the next big question is always, well, how often should I follow up with people? And this will depend, again, totally upon the customer journey. So where is this person in their journey on to becoming a client for you? Now, when it comes to SMS, for example, this is not a channel that you want to send send a message to someone every day on. You're likely only going to want to use SMS in scenarios in which where that, for example, maybe somebody's booking a consultation and you're sending follow-up text messages to them to make sure that they've done their homework or they're going to bring whatever documents it is that they should bring to the appointment, for example. Because again, text messages, people are going to check them a lot sooner. Now, when it comes to email, some people believe in the idea that, hey, I can email people every day. And for some people, that may work. Me personally, I don't necessarily believe that you need to email every day. I do believe that you should probably get an email out every week. And the reason why that is because you can cover a lot of information and it's not as aggressive on intruding on people's lives. So people aren't necessarily checking their emails all day, every day. Some people may only check their emails once a week or every other day or whatever the case may be. So depending upon whether or not you're doing a long-term nurture sequence or a short-term nurture sequence will really depend upon the cadence, meaning how frequently that you want to send those emails. So if I'm doing a webinar and I want to send a follow-up sequence after the webinar, I'm probably going to make that about 5 days because I really want to take those first initial 5 days after the webinar to try to capture their attention and get them to take the next step. Same thing goes for a seminar or maybe someone who may have opted in for a VSL of some sort. If someone downloaded some kind of guide or maybe they opted for my newsletter, then the cadence may be a little less frequent in those particular scenarios. Now, in the case where you are using video content in some kind of retargeting campaign, the best strategy that I can give you for this is only show content to people that you know have already engaged in some other kind of content or taken a specific action on your website. So for example, someone signed up for a webinar, they attended the webinar, but they didn't book a consultation, but they visited the consultation page. If you can identify that person, then I'm probably going to have some video content that nudges that person back to that particular booking page. And I'm probably going to run that campaign for 2 weeks, for example. So maybe there's a series of videos that I have in this campaign about why they should book a consultation. If I know some of the most common objections that people have as it relates to booking a consultation, then I'm probably going to have video content on that because I want to try to overcome those objections. The most important thing here is really that you need to have some kind of system for following up, and you don't want to be too pushy, but you definitely want to stay present with the leads that have raised their hand and interacted with you. So what are some of the signs that you can look at in order to determine whether or not a lead is ready to convert? And this is really going to come down to a couple of different factors. Now, I'll tell you the thing that I like to use the most, and this is because I like to nerd out on technology, but depending upon what your tech stack is, you can actually put together campaigns that will trigger when people visit a certain page of your website. Let's say, for example, I had an ad that was driving people to a webinar, and I got this person to sign up for a webinar. I was able to ascertain that this person actually attended the webinar, but for whatever reason, they didn't book on the actual webinar itself. And let's also assume that I have a retargeting ad in place that's running, and this is going to drive this person back to my website. Well, you can set up different triggers and conditions in your email marketing app that can track the activity on your website. And when someone visits a certain page, you can basically send an alert to yourself or maybe somebody on your sales team that says, hey, Chris attended the webinar. He came back to the website and he visited these 2 different pages. And because those were 2 high value pages, for example, let's have somebody from the sales team reach out to them. Or you could also trigger an email or trigger an SMS to actually go out to this person because you were able to understand that they came back to the website. That's one of the kind of like nerdy techie ways that you can go about doing this. Obviously, there are other things to consider, meaning maybe this person signed up for their initial intro call and they made it to the discovery call, and maybe it's been a couple of days and they haven't decided on what it is that they're going to do, and you may just need to do a little follow-up there. That's obviously a good indication that someone is likely going to convert because they've been able to make it all the way through all the steps that's needed in order for them to become a client. But if you're looking for ways to be able to just kind of passively understand whether or not someone is ready to convert, one of the best things that I like to use is being able to track web activity for my leads to see how they are engaging in my content so that I can reach out to them at the most opportune time. Now that I've shared several different ways on what a lead is, what a nurture sequence is, how you should use them, and also in what ways. I'd like to know a little bit from you about what are some of your most successful lead nurture campaigns, maybe some things that I may have missed or neglected to state in this particular video. If you're able to leave a comment below, I'd be more than happy to read, and maybe I can do a video on your suggestions. So that's all I have for you for today. I'll see you in the next one.